Hi, everybody. I'm John Harms, founder and CEO of Millennium Systems International. Really excited today to talk about growth indicators. So growth indicators, there's 6 of them. So the great thing is there's not 25, there's not 50, there's 6. But it's important to know how to track them. Going clear back to the 90s, when I was building software, I realized that for me to want clients to stay with me, I need to make sure that I'm helping them not just book appointments and ring up sales, but that I need to help them navigate their way to growth. And it was an eye-opener for me when I came across these growth indicators in another industry, and I helped bring them into the industry in about 1996. So we're going to be talking about those growth indicators today, most of which you may have heard of, but what I hope to do in this segment is give you some of the averages that are out there, some of the goals that you should have for these different KPIs, and also just some of the things you can do to affect them. So looking forward to this talk. I hope you enjoy it, and let's dive right into these growth indicators, these 6 performance growth indicators. They're going to help you make a difference in your salon this year. So let's dive into the first growth indicator. It's new guests per month. So tracking how many new guests are coming in is important because you need to fill seats for the clients that aren't retained on the repeat client side, and we'll go over that in a minute. So just keeping fresh clients in your seats and being able to fill the books for new stylists is important. So knowing how many new guests you're bringing in per month is important. And I like to measure it over like 12 months. So if I can see 12 different bar charts that represent how many new clients came in that month, it's going to help me identify trends if we're dipping down, if we're going up. Because what we're going to find out as I go over these growth indicators is they're all interrelated. So sometimes my new client retention might be going up, but my frequency of visit goes down. My frequency of visit goes up, but now my retention starts going down. So they are all very tightly related, so you need to watch them all. But new guests per month is going to let you know how you're doing with regard to social media, online presence management, how well are we representing our business out there, in social and online and web. And it really just measures your reputation. If your reputation is good, you should have plenty of people wanting to come into your salon. The other thing is, it really can help measure whether or not you have a client loyalty system that's working, where you're encouraging referrals, whether that be with a gift card or whether that be with points. But having some kind of referral system to get those new clients in is so important. And you'll also find out the retention of a new client that comes in from a referral is much higher than somebody that just randomly saw your sign out front. So track your new guests per month. All right, so now we're working hard. We're getting new clients in each month. But the next most important thing is new client retention. That's the second growth indicator. So we're bringing in new clients. We're spending money. We're spending time on social media. We get them in the chair. And unfortunately, the industry averages around 35% new client retention. So of all those people you work so hard to bring in, maybe you bring in 100 in a month, only 35 of them come back for a second visit. That's kind of depressing. So we need to figure that out. In the 30 plus years that I've been doing this, I think it comes down to, assuming that you're providing a good service, it comes down to relationships. So really work hard on your stylist, building that relationship with the new guest. It probably wouldn't even hurt to ask a few questions of that new guest to get a feel for what they're interested in. Do they have kids? Maybe I put them with somebody that also has kids. Do they like sports? Then maybe I put them with somebody that likes sports. Are they like me and want to go there and not talk about anything, just enjoy that moment, get my hair cut, and kind of be quiet? So those are the things I think that can make a big difference in new client retention. Also, rebooking. Don't let that new guest walk out without their next appointment booked. That is so important. That is the way you increase new client retention, and then it kind of sets the pace for them that from now on when I come in, they're going to rebook me even once I'm a repeat guest. And it just becomes something normal, just like going to the dentist. We have that 6-month appointment for the next cleaning, and we're used to that. We don't question it. We don't know for sure if we're going to be available on December 3rd, but we do it. So very important to rebook that guest and keep that new client retention up. So the other thing I'm going to tell you a quick story about is I was at a conference and a client came up to me at the pool. I was actually relaxing for a moment and said, the industry always says 35% is the new client retention rate, 50% is a goal. I'm like, yeah, absolutely right. He goes, there's no way that that can be accurate. And I said, well, why? He said, I bring in over 100 new clients a month. And if that were true, within 2 years, I wouldn't even be able to book a single new guest, take on any new clients, because my book would be full. And that's not the case. So he got me thinking about it. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So I went up to my room that night and I wrote the industry's first new client retention report that spans 6 visits. And what I discovered was 35% is the industry average for that first repeat visit, so the second visit. The third visit drops down to about 23%. The fourth visit goes down to like 18%. By the 6th visit, the average, and I got to look at 1,000 different salons' data, was 8 to 10%. So by the 6th visit, you're only keeping 8 to 10 of the clients or guests that you work so hard to bring in. And again, back to that 100 guests, by the end of the year, you've got 6 left, 8 left, 10 left. So we really need to focus on how do we do a better job of matchmaking between the stylist and that new guest, the follow-up with that new guest. One of the things that we added to our software, Amiibo 2, is we have 5-star reviews. You have a choice whether it's every visit or you can have it every other visit. But especially that first visit, you want to know how they felt about that service and how they felt about the stylist that you put them with. So there's a lot we could talk about there on the retention side. You definitely want to follow up with marketing. You want to have some set it and forget it stuff that says, hey, if I have a new guest that hasn't been in 90 days, I'm going to reach out to them. There's reports that you should be able to run in your software that will show you the new guests that haven't been back. And it's so important to give them that opportunity to come back, but maybe not go to the same stylist. Maybe they're not back because they didn't love Susie. So them knowing, hey, we've got John and Megan, and we've got all these other people that would love to take care of you, and that in our salon that's okay. It doesn't feel weird or like they're cheating on Susie. So put the effort in. New client retention matters. It's your future book by making sure you work hard to bring in new guests. And then that second growth indicator to keep them coming back and keeping them coming back at a frequency that makes sense by rebooking them and having things like online booking available so they can book if they don't have the chance to book before they leave, that they go online and be able to book at convenience. And we'll talk about online booking a little bit more. Now let's talk about the third growth indicator. It's repeat client retention. So we're bringing in new clients, we're retaining them, but we also need to make sure that we're focused on these people that have been loyal to us for hopefully years. And are they coming back? And is there anything that's happened since maybe a stylist left and we got a new stylist, the retention start to go down? So important to also focus on repeat client retention. The industry average is around 70%. The goal is around 85%. And what I've heard people say is you got to allow for 15% because people move and unfortunately people die. So 15% is acceptable. It's unrealistic to think you're going to probably average a lot more than that. But 85% is definitely attainable. So you want to try to get there. So how do you get there? You get there by rebooking again. Again, not letting the client leave without their next appointment is so important. Let's just look at where we've been with COVID in 2020. Now everybody's rushing back. So important to rebook those clients because your frequency of visit, which is the next growth indicator we're going to talk about, is going to drop. It's going to drop if you can't be efficient in how you book people and how you spread it out and how you get them in and you get them booked in advance. And to me, one of the ultimate ways to keep clients retained, and I'll also talk about it in the next growth indicator, are standing appointments. If you've got somebody that loves coming in and you want to keep them at a frequency that makes sense, you want to make sure that you book standings. You can also sell packages. You can sell a lot of different things to the client that kind of locks them into continuing to come back, gift cards, etc. You want to make sure that you have marketing set up as well, just like I said in the other retention growth indicator, that if they haven't been in 90 or 120 days, there's some kind of outreach. There's also reports in your software that are going to give you a list. Maybe you want to call them up personally. Maybe you want to text them. What we do in our report called the AQ70 appointment recall report is you pick a week like this week and say, who's due in this week? And maybe I only want to focus on people that get color. And it's going to give me that list. It's going to show me who they went to last time. It's going to show me whether or not they have a future appointment booked. Nothing more embarrassing than calling somebody because they haven't been in and they're like, I'm coming in tomorrow. So it was so important for us, as we've learned over the 30 years, to add the column that says, hey, do they have a future appointment booked? and on what date. And it's great when you call them that you already know where the openings are. So when you call them and you say, hey, Susie, you haven't been here in 3 months. I do notice that Beth has several openings on Thursday or Friday afternoon. Do either of those work for you? So that you're kind of getting them in. You're not asking them, would you like to book your next appointment? You never ask a yes/no question. Hopefully your software will give you some openings. We have some automatic rebook stuff in our software that will actually show them their openings that are available as they're checking out. So you can say, oh, the system just told me we have this time, and this time available in 6 weeks. So using technology in a smart way makes sense, although this is not a technology industry, this is a person-to-person industry, but using technology in a way that allows me to be more personable or be able to work with a client in a way where I already know what those openings are, just makes that phone call much smoother, or that text message. A lot of people using the text messaging back and forth type of stuff now too, which is great. So got to keep the repeat clients coming in, and we need to know when they stop coming in and reach out to them before we've lost them. So repeat client retention, growth indicator number 3. All right, ready for growth indicator number 4? It's my favorite one, frequency of visit. Whenever I go into a salon and I want to look like a hero and help them grow 20%, pretty easy. We call it low-hanging fruit and just pluck it. It's frequency of visit. Most salons only average 4.88 visits out of each of their guests a year on average. The goal is typically 7 to 8 times a year, as we would all know. Color clients are typically in 4.5, 5 times a year. So then you start to ask yourself why. And I'm an easy answer why. I should be 12 time a year client. I should be in once a month, at least get this trimmed here that starts to stick out. And what do? If they don't rebook me, I get busy and I wait until I look in the mirror one day and go, oh my God, I really need to do something about this. And it's probably 6, 7 weeks later. So instead of being a 12 time a year client, I'm a 6 or 7 time a year client. So just multiply that over, a lot of guests, and that's how you end up with a low average of only around 4.88. I've had many salons say, oh, there's no way that's where we're at. I would say almost every salon that isn't focusing on rebooking and the things that help frequency of visit, they're around 5 visits a year, whether they think so or not. And then it's important, in our software, we actually have frequency of visit by service category too, right? So that's important. I'm not going to expect 12 visits out of a color client necessarily, but I might expect 12 visits out of me, male client, or I might expect 15, 16 visits out of a nail client that's getting their nails done, right? Every couple of weeks, hopefully they're coming back. So I think it's important to also, if your software supports it, have that frequency of visit by service category as well. Number one thing for rebooking, and that's why, again, in Mevo, we actually have a rebook option right inside the appointment book. We have a rebook prompt while you're ringing up. It's so important to rebook guests. And the thing that I said before, and I'll say it again, I've seen people that do it really well. And people that do it really well can average 75 to 80% rebook, which is incredible, phenomenal. Clients can't really say, well, I have to check my schedule. Everybody's schedule's in their back pocket anymore on a phone, right? So that excuse is out. And it's all in how you dialogue and build a culture around rebook. A culture around rebook means not only does the front desk talk about rebook, but the service provider that's touching that guest's hair, that's performing a service, is talking to them saying, hey, by the way, loving the way your hair's looking right here. We definitely need to see you in about 5 weeks, so we'll make sure we get you booked before we leave. And you're setting that in the client's head before they even get up. And with mobile devices, a stylist, if that's allowed in the salon, can actually take out their own phone or grab an iPad and rebook the client themselves. And then if they don't, then the front desk is kind of that last chance to rebook that guest before they go. So building a culture that talks about rebook from the front desk to the stylist to the managers with the guests, it becomes just what we do. It's what we do to make sure that you look your best, and we're proud of you saying that you come to our salon because you look great, because you're coming in 5 weeks, not 8 weeks. So frequency of visit, key to growing about 20% within 6 months. And people say, well, wow, how could you do that? If you think about it, to grow 20%, I'd have to raise my prices 20%, right? Or I'd have to go find a ton of new clients. Or what could I do? I could take my loyal guests that are coming in 5 times a year and get one more visit. One, if you do 1 divided by 5, that answer is 20%. One more visit on average from your clients will give you a 20% growth. So frequency of visit, growth indicator number 4, my personal favorite, the low-hanging fruit that allows you to really increase your revenue quickly, and actually it's the best thing for your guests as well. All right, growth indicator number 5, average ticket. So it's much easier to break down what your goals are to what you want an average ticket to be. That way, every time you're transacting with a client, you kind of know like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. My average ticket's $77 and I really want to get it up to $90. So, every time you're checking somebody out, you're able to see, did I hit that $90? Okay, I was a little short. Oh, I hit 120 on that one. So I like average ticket because it's like a bite-sized piece rather than looking at a whole day or a whole week or a whole month of revenue. So average ticket, there's really not an industry average because you could be in New York City and you could have a $300 average ticket. You could be in some small town in Ohio and be killing it with a $50 average ticket. So average ticket is whatever your average ticket is today, and then just try to add $5 a guest. Or in the case where it's maybe my goal, if I'm doing 77, at least add 10, 15% and try to get that average ticket to 90. And it's usually $5 to $10 a guest. It's not a huge number. So what costs $5 or $10 a guest? Retail, take home, like making sure that we get people to actually buy some product. Come up with some great add-ons. I've seen people increase their average ticket $5 to $10 a guest by just having conditioning treatments back at the shampoo bowl. Squeezing oranges and whatever else fruits I've seen them do. Heck, if they asked me if I wanted a $10 neck massage while I waited, I'm in every time. So there's plenty of things you can do with add-ons. And again, in Mevo, I'm just going to tell you what we do there, and your software might do it as well, where you can actually attach an add-on to a service so that it actually reminds the guest, even if they're booking online, about that add-on. It'll remind the person booking the appointment, if they're booking it manually, to offer that add-on. And I'm that kind of guy too. Like if I'm booking online and it popped up and said neck massage and grapefruit sprinkle in my hair, I'd be like, check, especially if they're $5 or $10 each. So increase your average ticket. It really comes down to, and I know a lot of people, stylists don't want to be salespeople. It really isn't. If you believe in the product that you're putting on that client, you're doing the best thing for them. And what's kind of funny is there's so many times where I'll get like a shampoo or something and I'll smell it and I'll have to ask them, like, what shampoo was that? They should be telling me. They should put it in front of me. Maybe while I'm still at the styling station to let me know what it was, or handwrite it on a ticket. Typically, if you handwrite a recommendation, that turns into a sale at a higher frequency than if you just say it. So there are definitely some things you can do to increase your average ticket, which ultimately is going to increase your revenue for the year and make everybody much happier. So growth indicator number 5, average ticket. And we are up to growth indicator number 6, which is really an accumulation of the previous 5. So if I'm rebooking and I'm retaining and I'm doing all these things, my appointment book's going to get fuller and fuller and fuller. And the typical salon is going to have an 80% goal on what they want to get their productivity to be. So here's something I'll tell you that I learned also in my 30-year journey, that you get a lot of questions about when do I raise my prices? When do I expand my hours of operation? When do I add new service providers? The answer is knowing your productivity. So productivity is really a measure of how booked we are in the book. It's also a measure of how well we're rebooking and doing all these other things that we've talked about. Productivity can be measured in hours and it can be measured in dollars. If I know I'm capable of doing $100 an hour and I'm working 40 hours, then I want a $4,000 week, and that's 100% productive. A lot of people do it by time, looking at the appointment book. How full is my column? How full are my columns for the week? Maybe I have 40 hours available to be booked, and I only booked 30 hours, so I'm 75% productive. So productivity is important, but let me go back to what I started to talk about, which is how do you know when to raise prices, expand hours of operation, et cetera. And the way you know is if productivity hits 85% and stays there for over 90 days, you really need to start looking into raising prices, expanding some hours, adding staff, those types of things. The question is why? Well, why is retention will start to fall off, frequency of visit will start to fall off. Can I get in Saturday with Megan? No. How about next Saturday? No. How about Thursday? No. Guess what? I need to get my hair done and I'm going down the street. So when productivity gets so high and people look at that as, wow, I'm 90% productive week over week over week, you are losing guests, you are losing frequency of visit. So the perfect world is to balance that by either raising prices or expanding hours to create more inventory of time, and then keep that productivity below 85%. So it's kind of weird to think 85 to 100% productivity is not good. It's good for a day. It's good for a week. It's not good for 90 days straight. That means you are going to start losing some clients. And hopefully within the salon, they just go to somebody else in the salon. But sometimes it's to the salon down the street. So tracking productivity is super important. Typical 75 to 80% goal. Definitely training your staff on rebooking and these things that we've talked about, training your staff about understanding what their capabilities are, whether that be in dollars or hours, getting them to want to, during downtime, be proactive with the software that you have and reach out to guests that are doing this week and fill their own book or work with the front desk to do it. Would I rather hear from the front desk or would I rather hear from Megan who just cut my hair? I might want to hear from Megan. And again, it doesn't really have to be Megan. It could be Megan in an email or a text message, or it could really be Megan. But there's definitely some downtime that stylists and other service providers have that they could have a playlist of productive things they could do to keep increasing their productivity and filling their book. And so the key thing with productivity is monitoring it, making sure that you can see it. Again, in Mevo 2, we have it at the top of the column. Every day, every person has a color-coded thing showing how productive they are on that day. Maybe you want to balance it, and if somebody's already 85% productive, maybe I give a non-request to somebody that's only 40% productive and try to help balance the book. So just being aware of productivity is super important. And what I'm going to talk about now is really going into how you use your software. Now that you know what these growth indicators are, how do I use software or how do I use the tools to monitor it? How can I make sure that everybody in my salon either has it on their phone or has it available to them quickly to know exactly what their average ticket is, their frequency of visit, their productivity. So important that you build a culture around the business side of beauty to help them grow both from a perspective of a stylist, but also from a perspective of attaining the things they want outside the salon and making more money. So let's dive into some of the things that you can do to track these things. So one of the things we use to track in Mevo 2 are what we call smart centers. So a smart center is a beautiful dashboard that is actually created by the salon. So we have some default ones in there, but what's great is you can use your own colors, your own images, but then build your growth indicators and the numbers that matter around it. When we were building Mevo 2, I said, you know what? Most software just has a white background, right? Or a logo in the middle of it. I go, why wouldn't we want the minute they log into our software on their phone, on a tablet, to be presented with the things that they know are the keys to their growth? And so I'm very proud of that. We call them smart centers, totally configurable, and they actually are the first thing you see when you log into the software, again, from your phone or any device. So that's one way we handled it. Another way we handle this is that goals should not just be revenue-based. Right? So most software out there says, what's your goal? And when I say to somebody, or if I even walked into a salon and said, what's your goal? They have $150,000, right? It'd be what their annual revenue goal is. Or my goal today is $1,000. I want to hit $1,000 today. But guess what? The dollars are rear view mirror mentality, I call it. So imagine you're driving down the road and you've got this big windshield in front of you, and then you've got a little rear view mirror. Whatever the revenue is based on what I did yesterday, right? I can't really affect it much. Maybe I could do some upselling, I could do some add-ons, but in general, revenue's based on things I did yesterday. The growth indicators we've talked about, rebooking, retention, productivity, are like looking out that windshield and driving down the road going, wow, here's all these opportunities. So goals can't just be revenue. Of course, they're revenue based, but they also need to be based on these growth indicators. So setting goals on average ticket, frequency of visit, retention are so important. And having that readily available to the service provider to just click a button, or just there they are in their smart center, or they go to what we show here, the goals dashboard, and they can actually see what they're doing. Now, what's cool is you set the goal for the month, and they add up for the goal for the year. Then we use some proprietary algorithms to figure out how to get that goal down to a week and how to get that goal down to an exact day. So a goal in Mevo for somebody that worked on an 8-hour day might be 1,000, but then the next day when they work only 4 hours on a Saturday, it's going to be a different goal. So it knows how to adjust their goal and give them a daily goal to start their day with, even though they're setting the goals monthly and annually. So we all have our favorite reports. Well, my favorite report in Salon Solutions that I wrote in the 90s, in Millennium that I wrote in the 2000s, and in Mevo 2 is the MA200 KPI report. It's employee key performance indicators. It's basically taking all the things we've talked about and supersizing it. My goal with this was, how do we write a report where with one page I could do a complete employee review? I've had people send me their MA200 report that I've never even met their stylist, and I can, over the phone, tell people a lot of things that just blows their mind. They think I'm like, they think I'm like a psychic. And the truth is, I'm just looking at a one-page report that breaks down productivity, the hours they worked, how many of those hours were productive and weren't. It's going to show me on the left-hand side their service breakdown, the right-hand side their retail breakdown. It starts at the high level total, then it breaks down per ticket, average per retail, average per service, down to the hour number of services I do in an hour, the dollars of services I average in an hour, and then it goes on to rebooking percentages, request rate, how often is this employee requested, frequency of visit, and their retention. All in one piece of paper. So the MA200 is my favorite report. I'm sure in your software there's a report or reports that you love, but the key is that you understand the reports, you understand the calculations, and you can sit down with your service provider and give them a path forward to how they can improve those numbers. So for us, it's the MA200. Love that report, and it has survived 30 years in 3 different softwares because it's just, to me, the best report for sitting down and having an amazing conversation with a service provider. The next report I'm going to talk about is one of the innovations that we have here at Millennium. So again, talking to clients like I do, they tell me, well, it's great that I know what my retention is, but I'm finding out what my retention is for February when it's June. I can't fix February. So I thought about that. I'm like, well, how could we project retention? How could I let you know in May that June and July and August are going to look a certain way or are trending a certain way? Well, the obvious answer is the appointment book. I know who's been in. I know who's on the books. I know who's not on the books. I know who's on the books for a service that's different than they had in the past. So we created the industry's first and only new client retention projection report. It's actually new and repeat. So the retention projection report is going to use the appointment booking, show you here's the people that are already retained and what percentage that is. Here are the people that aren't retained, and then there's reports you can get their names and go after them. So what's great is I could look at June and say, well, I'm trying to average 50% new client retention. Right now it's projecting that my new client retention in June might be only 48%. So I'm so close. Well, then it's going to show me that there's 30 people that are not on the books. So I can go look at who those 30 people are, contact them, and get to 55, 60% retention. So I'm proud of it because it shows innovation in that we're trying to do everything possible to give you the tools that you need to make sure you get those clients back and not look back at your retention for June once it's October and go, wow, well, June wasn't very good. Doesn't help. So being able to project retention is a very cool feature and something that I ask all my Mevo clients to take a look at. The next really cool tool that we created is called sales ranking. So again, when you hear sales ranking, you're thinking, oh, you're going to rank the employees about who sells the most retail or who sells the most services or certain type of services. Yes, it does that. But it also does the growth indicators. So I can go into sales ranking, select employee as being kind of my focus, and then pull down and select average ticket, frequency of visit, retention. And what it'll do is actually rank my employees around whatever that growth indicator, for instance, average ticket, so I know exactly how they're trending. And I might even want to share it with the staff so that they can see, oh, I finally hit the top 3. It's a great way to motivate people. It's a great way to kind of give people a little kick in the bum too, and try to say, hey, your goal is $60 and you're at 52, and you're ranked number 8 out of 10 of our staff. So sales ranking is a great way to just give a measurement on how well people are doing, not just with revenue, but with the growth indicators we've talked about. And now the last thing I want to talk about is something that we just came out with called Mevo BI. BI stands for business intelligence, and basically business intelligence is everything we're talking about. It's growth indicators. It's having these KPIs in a way that's easily accessible on my phone. If I'm multi-location, I can actually get it by location. I can actually aggregate the locations. Once I drill down, I can actually drill down on a certain KPI and actually see each employee, what they did to come up with that total sales number, or if the average ticket is X for the whole salon, I can click on it and it'll actually break down each employee's average ticket right on a phone, iPhone or Android. So we have a really cool mobile app, Mevo BI, that's gonna kind of pull all this stuff together and in a way that works really great, not just for an individual employee or a single location, but even multi-location. Okay, that's it. So we actually covered new clients per month, new client retention, repeat client retention, frequency of visit, average ticket, and productivity. So these are 6 things that you can monitor that are going to make all the difference in your business. It's going to motivate your staff, and it's honestly, as I've said, the best thing for your guests as well, that they're actually enjoying these services at a better frequency, getting some of these add-on services and taking home retail and taking care of the service, the hair or the nails or whatever you've done for the client. So really enjoyed talking about this. Thank you very much for your time today. I love what I do. I love who I do it for. And best of luck getting through the rest of 2021 and moving on beyond 2020.